Hi, you are live with Lila and
Ron David.
hi,
Good
Ron
morning
David.
or good
Good
afternoon, I
morning, good afternoon. It's always 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Whether that's
guess.
5 a.m. or p.m. It works both ways. What do you do at 5 a.m.?
5 a.m. I'm sleeping.
You are? I was up today.
Yeah,
I was up at 4:55
really?
today. Yeah, I didn't mean to. I just woke up and I was like, let's go.
Well, when we used to have to go in the office, I could get up that early and then drive down to work, but there's none of that going on now. So I enjoy
Right.
sleeping in now.
Good for you. You should have the sleep. You should have the peace. You should have whatever it is that you feel is the best use of your time.
Yep. I'm just trying to make sure I keep focused on the team and the job at hand because it's so easy to get distracted at home and get
Hmm.
sucked into things that all the activities that you normally do after work. It's easy to get sucked into instead of your workday. But I guess it cuts both ways. Last night I stopped working
Yeah.
at like 6:30, so
You did?
yeah,
What made you stop?
I was hungry and dinner was ready.
Lucky
It's
you.
it's that simple.
I have to make my own dinner. So I'm like, I'm hungry. I should, oh man, it's too late. So, well, how's your team doing?
Well, my old team is doing well. They're adjusting to a new manager. They're a little disappointed in that they lost me as a manager and they call me
Yeah.
lamenting sometimes. But my new team doesn't exist yet due to the current economic conditions and the lack of
Hmm.
revenue from our company. We can't go out and hire the people that we had planned. But the new
Yeah.
team would have been 400 or 500 people staffing up a whole new division. So
Wow. So who are they? Like, if you dream up a dream team of people that you know you can lead beautifully, because you've been doing this, you've been managing and leading people now for some time. And everybody who's been led by you has just the most beautiful, glowing things to say about their experience, feeling seen, feeling recognized, mentored by you. So if you get to pick who you make feel those things next, what are those people like? What do they do? What's their day, their ideal day? What are they
so
looking for?
so that's an interesting question. And in my old job, which wasn't that old, but one of the main things I had to do was hire 6 people within a 4 month time period. And what I was looking for is uh, people that wanted to work and wanted to be part of the team. And honestly, I don't. It all comes through the HR. So I don't get to go out and draw whoever I want, but I just look at the experiences and availability of people, and then I'd talk to them sometimes, either via LinkedIn or other means, and say, hey, I was looking at your resume. Would you like to come in for an interview? And I brought in a few people that way. The market, it's odd now that there's so many people out looking for a job, but
Yeah,
back then, so last November, December, trying to find electrical engineers in Metro Detroit was pretty hard to do.
really.
Um, oh yeah, the job market was to the point where FCA was actively recruiting seniors in college.
Wow.
Right. So 5 months before they graduated, we were saying, hey, do you want to come work for us? Here's a job offer.
Hmm.
Come on and join us. Obviously, that's kind of flipped upside down. But what we always look for is more personality and a willingness to learn, a willingness to look at things differently. Um,
Hmm.
I was personally recruited myself by Chrysler on campus at Oakland University, and
Oh, no
and
way.
yep, and what they wanted was saw things differently. Don't always do things the way they've been done. Always challenge the status quo. So it was a great fit because actually I forget her name, but I just did the little test on LinkedIn of whether you're an includer or a questioner or whatever.
Oh,
And
Crystal says, or Crystal knows, I think.
I forget. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
I can send it to
that
you later.
tool.
But
Yeah.
but I have it actually right up here. I left it on my thing, and the questionnaire report. Actually, maybe it says right on here who did it. But I like to decide for myself whether a course of action is a good idea, and I always draw data and make my own analysis, and then make my own decision to go forward. And what I was
Yeah.
trying to do with my team, I'm kind of deviating from your question, but what I
That's
tried to do
okay.
with my team after I brought them all in was I had 21 people working for me, and I'm been in the company a long time. So I'm trying to make sure that the next generation of leaders can take over after I retire and keep the
Yeah.
Chrysler FCA nameplate moving forward. And what I wanted to do is build up their belief in themselves and the confidence to make their own decisions and go forward, with both the knowledge in their own ability, and then the knowledge that I don't have all the answers. Yes, I'm the boss. I
Yeah.
don't have all the answers. I
Hmm.
make mistakes. I need the team to support me, and you need each other. And then I gave examples of, one time earlier in my career as a young engineer, I was trying to manage this project. And as an engineer, you take pride in what you do, and you know if there's an error or a mistake that some people, including me, have it reflect on them personally, like I'm
Yeah.
failing because the project's failing, and I couldn't get it back on track. And I finally went to my boss and said, "Hey, I need a little help here because I don't think we're going to make it to the goal line." And he sent me to go see the guy in purchasing, which as a young engineer, well, I've never really dealt with the purchasing department, so I walk over there,
Yeah. It's like walking
and
over to
and,
another planet, right?
and yeah,
You're
well,
like,
and
you
his
want me to
reply is
fly to
like,
Jupiter and get some feedback?
yeah, well, so I would trudge over to the purchasing department. I talked to this guy, and I said, told him what's going on, and he's like, "Well, Jesus Christ, Ron, why didn't you come for help earlier?"
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, thanks," but then we got it back on track, and what was good is that I realized that, first of all, it's not only, not an admission of defeat. It's looked on as a sign of respect if you ask for help from your peers in other
Absolutely. And
areas,
people like to be seen as an expert.
right? And then, yeah, so leverage the tools that you have, which is the
Hmm.
entire, it's easier to say in a company like Chrysler where there's, 80,000 people, but there is somebody somewhere that can help you, and you just need to
Yeah.
find that person.
There are a couple
So,
of things I saw on LinkedIn this morning. Ed Arsinway, who's an executive over at Zoho, he posted something about how he had to ask for help. He just joined that company from LegalZoom, another company where he had worked. And so after 6.5 years at one company, he doesn't know everything about where he is now at
right.
Zoho, where they have over 50 different products, right? So of course he's not going to know everything right away. But somehow he got this email from someone saying like, "Hey, how do I do something with an invoice about some product that she had to submit to the state of Wisconsin?" And Ed, who is in Texas and Austin, had no idea what the product was, what the Wisconsin anything was, or where to even go for that. So just noticing a theme and people talking about asking for help and admitting like that we just don't know everything all the time. Difference is, I guess, you weren't new, right? You were early stage in the company, you were early stage
Right.
career, but he's brand new at that company, late stage career, like at an executive level, and still people have a hard time asking for help, asking for feedback, because there's this fear, I think, that we're going to be seen as not capable.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
If I look back at one of, like, I think it came up in a prior conversation, but if I look back at like regrets, if I could do it all over again, uh,
Regrets.
what
I've
I
had a
what
few.
oh,
Then
great singing
again,
voice. I didn't know
too few
that.
to mention. Yeah. Well,
Um, the pie wheel that other people have been using, where like they show, what I thought was important is hard work, 100%, and really
yeah.
what's important is relationship, and making sure that you're healthy, and making sure your team's healthy, and getting to know, what motivates them, and it's all a holistic experience, and I really wish someone had shared that with me when I was younger, and I make
Yeah.
it a point to share it with my mentees when they come to me for help. That, yeah, it's great, but everyone that makes it to, basically, as my boss described it, FCA is the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
The GM, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, that's the big leagues. Just to get in the door, you need a certain level of talent, skill, luck, whatever. But
Right.
then to differentiate yourself, you need to make sure that you build your team and help your team. And the only way to build a team is actually to be helpful to others, right? If
Right.
you can be honest and show integrity and deliver to others, then they will gladly help you. And that is so important that I wish someone had sat me down, in
Like a
1992.
leadership development coach or
Right.
something. Was it just not a thing then? Or why
I
do you
think
think that was missing? And you clearly needed this kind of development, this kind of support,
I think maybe I picked incorrect mentors, or conversely, I guess if I take some of the blame myself, maybe I thought I didn't need it, right? Maybe I thought
Okay.
too highly of myself to then reach out for that type of help.
Isn't it
And
interesting that now you're like at this stage in your career and you're looking for content to engage with, people to listen to and learn from that all the time, and you're one of the most curious people that I've met on LinkedIn. You're always asking questions and engaging, and you're on like the live feeds of my shows and other people's things, and you're like, how can I grow today? Like with this hunger. So it's funny that now that you know so much, you know how little you know,
exactly.
right?
The more you learn, the more you realize how small a part you're
Right.
in this whole big picture.
We're all geniuses and we're all idiots at the same time. So for the people who are in your dream team, you want them to have this curiosity, this hunger to grow and learn, and along with that, a willingness to suspend ego and to say, I might look like a fool, I might look incapable, and I don't care. I'm
Right.
going to ask for help. Yeah. So you learned this, thankfully, at that point early on. Was there any feedback that people had given you to, so you heard from that guy in purchasing, you should have come to me for help earlier,
Right.
right? Did that immediately change for you? Did you apply that to everything in your career as soon as you heard that? Or did it take more people saying that more times to you for you to get it?
I, I'd love to say, yeah, it changed me immediately, forever. No, most people, they're ingrained in their own behaviors and personalities, and to break out of that is uncomfortable. And as I've learned more about myself, I am an introvert, which is weird, right? You enjoy talking to me, I enjoy talking to you, but once I
Yeah.
get into a larger crowd, I tend to pull back a little. And I'm definitely very engineer oriented, right? So I'm a thinker in my own mind as opposed to reaching out and soliciting advice. But
Oh,
as
that's
you
interesting
mature,
that you're
yeah,
not externally focused.
right.
Yeah.
As you
Yeah.
mature and grow, and I mean, I'm not dense, so I can see
Right.
now
Mhm.
that this is where it's important. And what I want to do is make sure when I find others like me that are going up through the Chrysler ranks, that they open their eyes earlier. And you've seen that in some of the posts where I got
Yeah.
the,
Oh my
the
God.
five
There's that
paragraph
letter
thank
that
you
was,
letter. Right,
oh,
right.
please.
And
And that letter, and if people who are watching this don't know what we're referring to, go to Ronald David's profile on LinkedIn. He has it pinned as one of his featured posts. And thank you for doing that, because it makes it so easy for me to show people where that is. He
right.
got this incredible thank you letter from an employee, and I'd love for you to share how that came about and just
Well,
talk about it for a minute.
the gentleman's name is Ahmed, and he is my technical specialist. So he is a flipping genius, right? And there's no doubt about it. He is legit genius that we recruited from telecom into automotive. So on at automotive, we're pretty good. Telecom is just it's another level. It's almost like the rocket scientists or whatever. But we
In the
needed that.
engineering space, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So we needed that level of talent. But again, as an engineer, they have their own interpersonal skills, usually lacking, right? So what I was trying to do is I brought him under my wing and said, hey, you're making some of the exact same mistakes I made when I was your age. I can see the talent and the ability that you have. And I brought him under my wing and coached him and developed him. And when I moved on, so I left to go to a new role, he felt compelled to write that letter, which I got, and I literally sent it to my HR rep. I said, I feel like I got the best performance review ever, right? And
It is.
here, come look at this, mom, or teacher.
Yeah. You should put that on your fridge. I don't know why we stopped doing that when we're adults. Like at what point do we take a piece of feedback that is so affirming of exactly who we are and what we stand for and not celebrate it? I love that you made it a post, especially because it is an example of how an introvert can be a leader, how somebody who is a very talented individual contributor on his own can inspire great contribution from others who are geniuses in different ways. And that really none of that has anything to do with the fact that this person felt recognized by another person. He felt so seen and appreciated by you personally that he felt compelled to express outwardly, not an introverted thinking person, internal thinking person's thing to do, but he had to do this. He had to put out there what you meant to him. What was interesting for me was not just that letter, but the comments when you shared this from so many other people who had worked with you. It was beautiful. It was like a birthday party or a retirement party or like a eulogy, really, while you're alive. Most people don't get to hear those things about themselves while they're alive. It was like this incredible experience of a leader's legacy. And you're kind of quiet, so like for something to be recognized so publicly that usually goes on behind the scenes privately. What did that feel like for you as this introverted, humble guy who refuses to talk about himself ever, except for this show?
Except for when Lila makes me.
Right.
So,
if you're in the chat, write in the comments, I too have felt personally victimized by Lila.
Yeah. It made me feel great, obviously, right? I mean, anytime you get recognized for something that you do well, it makes you feel appreciated, right? And appreciation is really what most people are after. You see the post how people don't quit jobs, they quit supervisors or they quit managers or whatever. The opposite is true as well, right? I had one of my candidates who was a contract employee, and she had a competing offer from Ford, and her parents or her dad worked at Ford, and he was trying to convince her, hey, come work at Ford with us, and the offer was actually a higher amount because FCA usually tries to put more emphasis on the full experience, and they don't try to buy people to come in. They want people to come work there because they want to work there. I can see I can see their point of view. They don't want to be the highest bidder, right? To just draw in talent that don't necessarily want to be there.
They want the culture fit, right?
Right. They want the culture fit as well. I could use a little bit more pay myself, but anyway. But I was able to talk. But I was able to talk that candidate into joining my team because she wanted to work for me, right? So even though she had an offer in hand from a competing company, she saw that the working for me would help her career, and I'm still, I still made a promise to that team that once you work for me, you're one of my group forever, right? So
like one of your children, kind of, right? Like family.
Yeah, it actually did help me to grow as a leader, to be a dad, right? So I mean, it changes your view. Well, it changes your view on life, right? On what's important.
There's no ego in parenthood, right? Not if it's healthy, right?
No, it's all about them, right?
Yeah. Well, and for you, it's all about the people that you lead in your team. So let me ask you about that conversation, if you're willing to share more about that conversation with her. You have top talent out there. She had a competing offer, and then there's you. It's on you. The value of being there is you as a leader. and what she could see in the future for herself. So, how did you know what she would want to see in the future for herself? Did you ask her questions? How did you feel her out to see what value you could provide in
Well,
service?
I, I don't know if you caught the part of the conversation that had already been on my team as a contract worker. So
Oh, you knew her already. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this was a
Thanks for reinforcing.
conversion from contract to direct, right? And I was supposed to go out and hire those 6 people, but I was supposed to get other people to increase the head count of the people in house. So if I converted a contract person, I still had another hole, right? I just shuffled the hole
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was not necessarily helping the overall picture. But this candidate was so good, and I have to be honest with you, when I'm weighing resources, human resources, I need to do what's best for the company overall. And the fact that I was being told to go outside, but I had a good, extremely good candidate inside, I'm like, I had to go up 3 levels of management to fight to get that person hired in.
But you did
And
that.
but I did that. And
Mhm.
what I saw in her is another person that I would like to see at some point in the future, be my boss or be a
Wow.
director or a vice president, right? I
Wow.
mean,
What a litmus test and what a compliment to her.
well, it actually, actually, it's one of the things that I try to always do is I want to make sure that anybody I hire, because there's the old phrase of, you got to be careful what you do on the way up the ladder because, you could end up down later, right? And
Yeah.
so I want to make sure all these people that I hire, I would be okay if the situation were reversed. And, I was the 60-year-old guy sitting in the chair that needed to still work, and they're now my boss, right? So,
Yeah. Oh, interesting to think about it that way. And interesting perspective on the other side for people who are looking to move up. If you can prove your own uh, relationship building, loyalty, recognition of what's strong in your leaders, might give them a better feeling too about someday reporting to you. And you had brought up human resources. Human resources. We've got Christopher Hudson in the comments here, joining us on LinkedIn Live. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. I will also see you too. He says, I too have felt personally victimized by Lila. And the eulogy part reminds him of the Golden Girls episode where Sophia was faking her death so her friends could tell her while she's alive what they really felt about her. I think that's hilarious. That's why a lot of us do social media, right? So that we can see like what are people saying about us publicly. Although there is something to like removing yourself. And Chris also said before, Christopher Hudson said, as an HR professional, I support my managers and leaders by helping them create a feedback culture that ensures employees gain the self awareness necessary to be successful in the work environment. The right kinds of feedback are critical. So here's this very talented woman who you already knew how it was working with her, and she knew what it was going to be like to work with you. She
right.
knew she would move up because she would be mentored by you, that there's like that feeling, that goal of to mentor. And you've attended one of my verb your values workshops. Was to mentor one of your verbs?
I don't recall. I got the
Okay.
notes around here somewhere.
Oh, you do? You kept them? That's cool. Yeah, I bet it is. I bet it's like one of your values to mentor, because it just comes naturally to you. I think that you are very, for an introvert, very people facing. You're very others in the way that you think, and in many ways very creative. But how did you know that she would be open to? I know she wanted to work for you because she wanted to advance, and that she wanted to grow. What part did feedback play in that relationship before? And what kind of feedback is she expecting from you as a leader so that she can grow and move forward?
Well, she told me, in fact, there's one of my other posts where when she first got hired, she bought me this plaque for my desk, which I thought was funny, but it says I'm kind of a big deal or whatever. And
Yeah,
my post was, I think my team's a big deal, not me.
I
But
know. That's so you. Yeah.
she told me that I create an atmosphere where they feel like they can say anything, and that they
Oh,
can come and
wow.
they can come and ask questions and not get berated by, how come you don't know that, or how come you didn't ask somebody else first. It's always, what can I do to help, and why don't you reach out to this person, or let me reach out to this person. And I think they also see, because I try to be an open book, they also see all the work I do behind the scenes to try and make their lives easier. So there's so many managers that, at least that I've seen, that just get an assignment and dump it down to their people, and they don't ever
Yeah.
even think about it. And then, when it becomes due, they're like, well, how come this isn't done? What I try to do is, well, if it's something that I can do myself more simply, or at least add value as I'm passing it down, I'll do that, and then pass it down with instructions on, go see Joe in this department and try to get this
Okay.
worked out. And this person in Poland helped me out last time getting this PO through. Yeah, well, the joys of global business, right? So
Right.
there's actually engineering POs that come out of Poland. So we go to that group and ask them to help us get the PO out in time.
You're
Because
modeling looking for help.
yes, I try to
Yeah.
I try to show them all the steps involved, so that, what's the phrase? Teach a man to fish, they can eat for a
Yeah, I know
lifetime,
that
as
phrase
opposed
always
to.
makes me hungry for sushi. So now I'm hungry for sushi again.
There you
Just
go.
take,
It's
I'm very
lunchtime.
easily food triggered. Yeah, I guess it is. I have got like this shake thing that I'll be drinking instead of having lunch today, but it's the nature of the beast, just being someone who works on a crazy schedule. But I will have sushi for dinner. No, but it's that teach a man to fish. Oh, give a man a fish and he eats for a day, which is fine with me.
Right.
Um, I'm hungry now, so I want the fish now. Or teach a man to fish and he eats for a lifetime.
Right.
So you're showing them, look, I'm asking for help. And as your leader, watching me ask for help, you know that it's expected of all of us. You really are a very active modeler, it seems, in your leadership, like leading by example, a lot of transparency, uh, so that you are showing people that you don't know everything rather than just telling them, well, I don't know everything, so you're going to have to ask some questions. Good luck.
Good luck. Good luck with
Right.
that.
Oh, here, Christopher has put it in the comments here. Give a man a fish. I'll just pin it up here for a minute. Yeah, teach him how to fish. He eats for a lifetime. So, Ron, if you're teaching someone to fish, if you're teaching someone to lead, and you're modeling your leadership style, you're giving lots of transparency, you're giving frequent feedback, you're supporting and connecting people as they find opportunities and as they and their work grow. Can you teach this to these other people who are working for you so that they too become the kind of leader that you are?
Well, yeah,
Can you
I
teach
think
them to
so.
fish?
Well, I think so, and I think that's one of the reasons why the team was a little sad that I moved on to a new role, in that they all felt safe and comfortable, and that they were learning. There was a gentleman that's been in the team. Um, I worked on the 2011 Chrysler 300, and this gentleman has been on that particular team since about that time frame. So, 9, 10 years he's been working in that role, and he still
Wow.
felt uncomfortable with his ability to do the job. And I'm like, I go, that's
Wow.
crazy. I go, you're an expert at this. I go, you need to act like you're the expert. You have all the background. But he said, one time he gave a presentation, and there was some small errors on there, and then very privately I gave him feedback on, hey, you could do this better or do this better. He said I was the first boss he's ever had in like 20 years that took the time to give him that level of feedback.
You're kidding.
No, I
That's
was
insane to
astounded.
me.
Exactly. I was
That's
astounded.
crazy in 20
Right.
years,
Yeah.
especially after having been in, I mean, that's amazing to me.
Right. So
To and so how did it, so how, obviously he took it very well. It sounds like he was grateful for the feedback.
yeah, he said thanks. He said thanks a lot. I appreciate the help. But it
Did he
just
follow up? Did he follow through on that feedback you gave him?
yeah, he's made dramatic improvements.
So
I
you
mean,
saw him take that feedback and implement it.
yes.
Yeah. And has he followed up with you too to recognize and tell you like, hey, remember when you said that thing? Look, I've done this now. Or have you just made it your business to go and see how's he doing with this?
Well, I moved on, right? So I don't have interaction with this team very often.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my new role, but at the time, he did reach out to me, and for other items before he sent it out to his boss, or
Mm-hmm.
another team. He's like, Ron, could you take a look at this and give me some
Yeah.
feedback? So yeah, I mean, he took some of my comments to heart, and then still reaches out for my impression, when necessary. But
How does that feel for you when he reaches out or when anybody reaches out asking you for your feedback?
well, I enjoy helping others. I think that's
Yeah.
part of my personality. So anytime I can be of value to anyone for any reason, I like to help them out. It it allows me to share a talent that I can with anyone to help them build their skill set and their experience and their faith in themselves, their confidence, I guess, is the word I'm searching for. But you know I have to do that because I can't go out and like help them build a house or do whatever, right? I have to use what my abilities are to help other people. And and I think I've accepted the fact that apparently I'm pretty good at this. Lila told me so, so
Yeah.
I must be. So
A lot of people have told you so. If you're just watching this episode or tuning in for the first time in the middle of our live stream, make a note to yourself to go to Ronald David's profile. Look at his LinkedIn recommendations. Before you even go to the letter that's pinned, go look at his recommendations. The things that are said about him, you can tell, and you can also tell from the simple language that some of these people are using in writing these recommendations, that they're not flowery language people. And that tells me that they don't give recommendations often. You can also go do some digging like a stalker, like I do, and go and see who they are and see that they've given maybe one other recommendation, in ever. But that they
ever.
made a point to write this one for Ron. Right. Like these are not the people who think that their own words are so important like I am. These are the people who are just like, I don't usually say anything, but I got to tell you about Ron David. And that's the same kind of person, Amit, who wrote that beautiful letter to you. These are people who otherwise wouldn't, but have the confidence and are so grateful for the feedback you've given them, the growth that you've fostered in them, that they go out of their way to do something outside of their comfort zone and write these words about you that recognize you. I want to recognize too something that you said about how you feel of value when people on your team or anyone's team seek feedback from you. And very often we're very in our own heads about ourselves, worried about how we are going to appear, how we're going to come off if we ask for help. But there's another person in this relationship, somebody who might benefit very much from feeling valued, from feeling recognized as you come to them for their help. So that, I think that was a really valuable nugget that you shared. And I want to include that in everywhere that I talk about take feedback better. That there's somebody else on the other end of this who feels their own purpose being fulfilled when they are able to help, when they're able to mentor. Does
Right.
that show up for you all over your life too? Like when, as a parent, as a friend, as a son, brother, any capacity in your life, like when people ask you for help, that you feel seen and valued?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. My dad is 88 years old this year, and we just moved them from their house that I grew up in to a senior living center.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he had a stroke late last year, so it
Oh,
necessitated the move. But
yeah.
I was able to help my mom out recently to go get a new pair of glasses, and I enjoy spending time with them and helping them to get things done. It feels like the minimum we can do to pay back after all the years that they
Yeah.
put up with us. But I also think part of the problem with me personally, and maybe others, is that my dad was a very proud, strong person, and he never asked for help either, right? Ever. And
Mm.
and I think that directly led to his stroke that he had. In that,
Really?
well, my mom has had medical issues for like the last 3 years, and apparently she wasn't sleeping through the night, and she had other issues. And he's 88 years old, but he was doing it all himself. He had the wherewithal. First of all, we had, I have 5 brothers and sisters, so we had plenty of people around. And then he fortunately has the assets where he could have hired someone else to help, but just the inability for him to go out and ask for assistance and trying to do it all himself, I think led to the stress that gave him the stroke, which then tipped him
Wow.
over the edge. So I think
That's
that's the
very
clearest.
likely.
I think that's the clearest example that I've seen that, first of all, you have to get over your own pride and issues and reach out to others for help. And honestly, you know what? If you ask for somebody for help and they don't give it to you, you don't want to talk to them anyway. So, there's no harm.
Absolutely.
There's no
Right.
harm. There's no harm lost. But
I
most
love how you
people,
put that. Yeah.
most people that you reach out to for help, they'll be glad to help you. And I think you just need to get over yourself and reach out and ask someone.
The thing you called out about ego just now, and having to get over yourself, it's hard to do when that person that you don't want to be talking to anyway is your boss,
Yep,
right?
that's an impossible
So
situation.
it
Right.
is an impossible situation. I've been in it before
I've
where
been in it.
even when I was a success, like I'll share a story, of my own that I had created this email campaign that was the highest performing we had had all year. And at the company I was working for at the time, the boss was not into the way it looked,
Right.
right? The results were great. It was totally on brand, but he didn't like it. And so he had called a meeting of an entire other department to come in and look at this one email and pick it apart and say, this, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like the way that this looks. What do you think? And they were like, we think it's great. And he didn't like that. So he pulled me out
Exactly.
until he tried to find some kind of agreement, and where he got some agreement from someone, then called me in and said, see, we don't like this. And
This one thing we don't like.
right. And I'm like, but it worked, and then I tried to explain how something like asymmetry engages our brains in trying to fill out a picture. And so we stay on an image for longer and engage with the brand more deeply when our brains are triggered to take a new action. Just something that I think is very interesting. And I was sharing this, and he was like, what are you, some kind of marketing guru now? And I was like,
Yeah.
yes. Right.
Good.
But, pretty much I was like, what am I even doing here if even doing things right is wrong? And so some people are in those kinds of cultures. Some people are in those kinds of situations where they just feel no matter what, they're going to be picked apart. It's the opposite experience that people who work for you have. The opposite experience. Have you ever worked for someone like that?
Yes. Well, not exactly. He wasn't trying to tear me down. He didn't appreciate making waves. He wanted to, I guess the best way to describe it is he wanted to make sure that he coasted in the background and that nobody paid attention to him, which
Like a
is
middle
total,
guy,
yeah,
safety in
yeah, which is totally
invisibility.
not
Yeah.
how I've ever been, right? I mean, I explained how I got
Yeah.
recruited out of college and was told, challenge the status quo,
Yeah.
always try to make improvements. And as an engineer, one of the, you know, I don't know if a lot of people are engineers out there, but ultimately what we are
You're
is
there.
we're efficiency experts, right? That's what we mostly want to do is accomplish the most with the least amount of resources. So we had just went through a reorg back in 2003, 2004, I guess, timeframe. And we realigned all these tasks. And as a supervisor of a new team, I was told, you're responsible for all of this stuff. And this guy is my boss, and he's responsible for two, I think it was one other supervisor at the time. But what I could see happening is that I could get done all of the work that needed to get done now, right? So the
Mhm.
day-to-day
The
stuff.
tasks. Mhm.
Right. But
Status quo tasks.
well, I could maintain the assembly plants running. But anything that needed to get done for the next model, for the future, to protect the customer and the company for the future, was being sacrificed to dedicate all the work to what was happening now. And I told him this, and he basically told me to go away. And then I told my old boss this, that, prior to the reorg, and that didn't work out. And finally I went, a little higher up and said, hey, we got this issue. It needs to be resolved. And I ended up, that showed up as is probably the second or third time in my entire life that I got less than a great rating, right? So, and
Wow.
I pretty much lost my mind, because I'm like, hey, I'm running your entire team and you're saying I'm average. And fortunately, somebody else in the company said, Ron, we like what you're doing. We're going to put you in a new job. And they just pulled me out. And they, so I was saved by an unknown benefactor. I still don't know to this day who pulled me out and put me somewhere else. But they recognized that I could do more good somewhere else, and that working for this particular person wasn't working out. But
Why wouldn't they take that particular person who was
well,
taking a
well,
leader like
well,
you and, like,
well,
squashing you?
but I haven't gotten to that point.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so
I'm listening.
that the short term is they thought this Ron is a problem and we'll move him somewhere else and we'll take care of the problem. They
Uh-huh.
realized 6 months later that Ron wasn't the problem, that Ron was right, and this other guy was the problem. And
Gotcha.
they pushed him into retirement. They forced him into retirement, and then they
Mhm.
replaced me with 2 supervisors and another 9 engineers, which is exactly what I was telling them.
So you're 11 people.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I
Our
hear.
our
Like,
team was
they
doing
needed 2
literally twice the work.
supervisors. Yeah, wow.
Right.
That's intense. A good thing that they realized it eventually, though, right? Like, there are some of these leaders who stay in the position of power for so long, and people don't challenge them. They just kind of move them around, or they move other people under them, or their departments are the ones with, like, the big red flag that's labeled high turnover, right? Like, nobody wants to work for you. You're taking amazing talent and squashing it. That's the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing, right? Oh, we've got Adam saying, way to go, Ron. And I agree. He also says feedback is so crucial to your development. Stuart Smith, who happens to be my dad, saying, regardless of my success as a school VP, I was evaluated based on what I hadn't accomplished yet. That's awful. I mean, I know that that's true because I watched him, I watched my dad come home and feel like everything he's putting his heart and soul into, and the kids in class coming to a math class excited to be there, you know, and then coming to him when he was an assistant principal or vice principal, and still coming to him, still with that relationship and that respect. Other teachers coming to him and asking for guidance or for support in some things. But from above, there's, I don't know what it was. Maybe they were threatened by what he had achieved and their own lack of vision. Do you think that that manager you had who was kind of afraid to let you shine for whatever reason. Do you think that he was worried? I know that this is, speculation, but this isn't a court, it's not a court case. We don't have to prove anything. Just what do you think? Do you think that he was threatened by your creativity, your ability to think about how things haven't yet been done or tried because he couldn't envision them himself?
Well, I'm very refreshed with the whole servant leadership, and all the recognition of the importance of empathy, and even your dad's comment right there was, you don't judge people on what they failed on. You want to build upon what people have done right. And at work, next to the coffee pot, there's somebody head hanging up. You don't judge a fish on its ability to fly, right? You judge the fish
Yes,
on its ability to swim, right? So
I like that.
I think from a leader's perspective, when people are failing, the leader is failing. That's my view. And then it's up to us to figure out why. What is wrong with this person's either job or their personal life or something else that we can help address to make them, first of all, confident in themselves, and then confident in their ability to do whatever job they're being asked of. And if they're failing at the job, I mean, like I said, we got 80,000 people or so at Chrysler. There's going to be another job somewhere, right? You don't just leave them there miserable, and then both sides are miserable. You put them somewhere where they can excel, and then both sides win, right? I always look for the win-win, and I've learned to, through the Dale Carnegie method and whatever else, to make sure that you recognize when people do things well, and you give praise sincerely. And I'm probably not quoting that correctly. I know I'm not.
Whatever. It's a good idea.
You want to be lavish. You want to be lavish in your praise, but do it sincerely, so that I've found that most people's issues are their own issues, right? It's they have their own self-doubts, and they have their own issues at home, and they're worried, right? The one gentleman that I told you earlier, he hadn't gotten feedback in 20 years on something simple. He's constantly worried about his performance. Am I doing a good job? Right. Sometimes people just want to hear, yes, you're doing a good job.
So if he hadn't gotten feedback in 20 years and you happened to give it to him, do you think if he was developing himself as a leader, and would you advise somebody in that position to do this now, could he have asked for feedback sooner?
Absolutely. Ahmed, the gentleman who wrote me that nice letter, he was very proactive in asking for advice, in asking for guidance on his goals. Most goals are very high level, do this, do that, do it. There's like 5 things, and then maybe 3 subticks under each one. His was 4 pages, typewritten, double-sided, stapled, right? That was his goal.
Oh my gosh.
And then his performance.
I'm glad I'm not his manager.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad he had someone like you who'd be like, oh, let me read this whole thing. I'd be like, Ron, but I mean, distill this for me into the bullet points.
Yeah,
but you care that much. You want those pages. Well, I think that is the difference between people like you and me.
It made it really easy to rate his performance, because he said, I am going to do this, and then I did this against this goal. Yeah. It was you could go to court and, here, I'm just going to submit this as exhibit 1, and this is why it's rated like this, right? It totally removed any, favoritism or whatever else. There was no gray area in the evaluation. So,
well, Christopher brought up a point about trust here, that perhaps a lack of, or as a leader likes to say, who he knows, trust but verify. And that if you're coming from a position of distrust, it's when you don't let people fly. But I think that we have a responsibility, we who report to somebody else, like I'm talking about Ahmed and people in his position, we have a responsibility too, to build trust with our leaders, not just in that we are often asking for feedback, but that writing it out as he did, getting complete clarity and total alignment and agreement that this is had poorness, and then following through with implementation, that kind of transparency does build trust. You can see he's doing what he said he was going to do.
Right. Well, and it helps a person to organize what they discern as important or not important. And I told the entire team when I first took over, I said, hey, I'm not the guy that's gonna. I am the opposite of a micromanager. I tend to. I explain my whole theory on life at Chrysler is I focus on the customer who buys our car and the stockholder who gives us our money, that entrusts their money for us to give a return on investment. I go, your main goal should be to, make the highest quality product with minimal errors possible, and to use the resources efficiently. And everything else is just trying to make other teams and groups look good around you, right? So we want to do our job, but we also want to support the extended groups. But I don't get caught up in all the politics or in I'm a firm believer in not trying to make Ron David look better. That's not what Ron David is about. I want my team to do so well that management can't help but say, what the hell's going on over there?
Yeah. Well, has that happened? Have you
Who's
gotten,
making it happen? Well,
I know you've been
Well,
around there for a very long time, right? So they recognize your value. You've
yeah,
gone,
well,
you've come back, like they want you there.
Well,
They're
and
like,
when
this is the guy.
and when I left that group, I got promoted, and I'm in charge of a whole new division that is doing advanced electronics. So, yes, I mean, there's recognition of both the technical ability and the ability to lead people, and there's faith that we can go forth and execute. So, yeah, I mean, it's being recognized.
Again, you're making it not about you. Like you're like, well, yeah, because my team is going to be so great. Because let me tell you about the division. Like, no, Ron, you listen to me, okay? You are recognized as a leader who can handle something like this. You say, yeah, well, I got the promotion but this is a big deal. Actually, people need to know that when they lead from a place of generosity, where it isn't about you, you don't have to be threatened, and you don't have to make it all about you or be showy or put so much pressure on yourself to look like any one kind of thing. You can let that go and still advance in your career as you have. You can let that go and still move lives. And in fact, not just still, but because you let go of that ego, that you're able to move the people that you work with to respond the way that your team members have to you, and find opportunities recognized by a company that you've been working with for a long time to take charge of even bigger projects. So
okay,
take a minute and say, yeah, I've been recognized. And let me ask you, how else? So you've had a promotion. How else has the company acknowledged you as a leader? Because you're a very behind the scenes kind of guy, right? Thank you, Steve. Like you're behind the scenes, right? As this very quiet leader who's all focused on these other people. What has FCA done to recognize you? They've given you this promotion. Clearly, they pay you enough to stick around, because someone as talented as you could be working anywhere, really, if we're honest. How else are they acknowledging the kind of contribution that you make?
There's my son Brandon going upstairs.
Hi, Brandon.
Lila says hello, Brandon.
Oh, you have headphones. Me too.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't hear you. How else have they recognized me? I mean, I've been given a lot of autonomy and been trusted to execute. I guess other opportunities that I've been given over time is they sent me for 2 years over to Italy. I was the first person after the Fiat Chrysler merger to be sent to Italy, and I worked on the Maserati project, which this is another thing.
Wow.
This is another thing that's been on my LinkedIn.
What is that?
This is a Maserati Quattroporte.
Whoa. But, I have like plastic water bottle.
I had this coffee cup made for my team. It's the Chrysler design team.
Oh my goodness.
But after the merger, Maserati had an electrical team of 6 people, and they wanted to leverage the team at Chrysler to help build the next generation Maserati. So myself and Andrew Kravitz went over there and lived for 2 to 3 years, and we transferred knowledge and information and helped them incorporate some of the designs that we had put in place on the 2011 LX and launched the new cars there.
So did they give you one of the cars?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, everybody asks me that. Well, if everybody asks you that, then, I'm just saying, like, it's a common suggestion.
The only person,
if FCA is taking feedback.
The only person at Maserati who drove a Maserati was the the vice president of product development.
That's funny. Hold on, I'm going to make something here. Hashtag give Ron the car.
Yeah. Well, I can't complain. They did let me drive an Alfa Romeo for 2 years. So.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm hiding this. That's cool. Oh, I think it's really great that the opportunities, the very special singular opportunities to do work that's really exciting and that's constantly challenging you to think differently, do things differently. I like to see that they reward that, and it actually makes me feel more of an affinity for the brand. You know, hearing stories like this from leaders who aren't necessarily the most showy, but are the most growy. They're people. Isn't it funny? I'm supposed to be able to say things better, right? I don't know. It's not perfect. You know what I mean?
That's your
slogan. Yeah, right? Say things better, not say things perfectly. Yeah, not even well. Just say them. Just say things. I should just call it say things. I think that's cute though. Not so showy, but pretty growy. Like you grow your people, you grow your projects, you grow your own opportunities as a result of consistency and genuine ethics and investment in the people who work for you. And that's the kind of manager that everybody deserves. I wish too that you had, before you got to that point where somebody was like, why didn't you ask for help sooner? Why didn't you come and get feedback sooner? I wish that you had had a leader like yourself before then, just to get those extra years of like leadery Ron out of you and into the history of the world. But things happen in their course when they do for a reason, right?
Well, I'm still young. I'm not going anywhere anytime
soon.
soon.
Yeah, you're not dead. That's like the whole. But we're seeing all these nice things said about you while you're alive. You know, it's just thinking about. I guess it's not you, but like a young leader, a young contributor who has clearly such tremendous capacity, as you've proven since. Investing in our leaders when they are at that point, when they're just about to either stay the same or blossom and change lives and change the trajectory of technology and products and our future. This is where you want to nurture their ability to be open so that they can innovate as leaders and as engineers, if that's what they're doing. So having a leader like you does unlock a next level of innovation in the people that work for you. And I think that that's why your company really relies on you. It's why they rely on you, because they know they can trust you to make people feel the way that their brand claims to care about making people feel.
Right.
And ultimately, they can trust you to foster a culture of innovation where people are not embarrassed to try things and to seek help and to seek feedback. So I think you're one of the most valuable leaders that we have on this platform to learn from. It just means, you know, getting you onto my show and forcing you to take a little bit of credit so that other people can learn from it and then intentionally replicate what you've done. So I thank you so much for sharing everything that you have with us and for doing your part as a leader in the world. I admire.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is my first video interview or conference, I guess, but it probably won't be the last. I'm sorry?
On LinkedIn?
Well, anywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so crazy to me. That's so nuts. There are these people who are, this is why I'm so passionate about like rooting through and pulling the voices and stories out of people, especially when you can look in someone's experience on LinkedIn and you can hear the story, right? You can see, even if he hadn't had recommendations and you hadn't had that beautiful letter and all the comments on it from other employees and colleagues, you can see from your experience that there's so much to learn from. And maybe you're not a content creator who's shouting about themselves all the time, but your experience speaks for itself. There is so much to learn from you. And there's so many things to learn from all the people on this platform that I think it is on us, you know, the ones who are a little bit more showy, to reach and pull and be like, you're coming on my show, you're talking to me, right? I'm just so grateful. And I want to close by pinning Christopher Hudson's comment here because I love what he said, that Ron has a people growth mindset, and it is clearly genuine. These types of leaders are humanizing workplaces. I couldn't have said it better. And so I'm going to leave us with that. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you, Christopher. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Have the best day.